got the music is ready and everything.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, on the ball.
Just have to wait for the advert and then we can listen to it.
Oh, you joke.
Ancient Chinese music brings us into, I think, our first Chinese film, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's about time. Fernando, you picked So Long My Son.
Yes, I did. And
Where'd you come across this?
well, I was just thinking which film should I choose next. So I was looking through a list and this came up. I read the synopsis, which said that it was the story of a family that spanned several years over China. It was fiction, but I guess more or less inspired by reality. And that reminded me of one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book, A Suitable Boy, which also is the story of, well, I guess technically a set of 5 families in India. And it's also kind of, well, it is fiction, but it also, it's also inspired by reality. I was like, well, this sounds very similar. Maybe I'll enjoy it. I've only heard about China. Well, I mean, I know certain things about China, but I definitely don't know the history of China. I am interested in knowing more. Hence, I'll watch this. Yes, that was the process that I used to choose the film.
Yeah, cool. And were you happy with what you got?
Well, now that I've had 4 days to think about the film, because I did watch it on Monday. I think I did like it. But on the day, I did feel that it was perhaps a little bit long. As in, I know that perhaps we've watched other films that are even longer than this one. This one was 3 hours. But it felt a little bit slow very often.
It's a slow film, wasn't it?
It was a slow film. But I did like I guess I did like learning about China and how some people perhaps could have potentially experienced the Chinese society. So yeah, I did like it, except perhaps it was a little bit long.
Okay. Yeah, definitely a long film.
What do you think of the film?
What did you think, Laura?
I really liked it. I thought it was a great film. I got what you were saying about it being slow. There was a couple of times where I was like, speed it up. My God, no wonder they called it so long, eh? But no, I find it very moving. I thought it was beautifully done. Barry Lyndon pacing, wasn't it? I like a good, really feel a scene when you're there for 20 minutes in silence.
That's right.
Just watching them just contemplate their lives or something. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Cool. Barry Lyndon is actually a great comparison, isn't it? It really had that really taking its time.
But I didn't think Barry Lyndon was a long film. Or did we think that it was a long film? I mean, it was, but did it feel that way?
I thought it felt long.
Oh.
I did. I can't remember, actually. In a good way, though, because I love it.
Yeah. But, I think like this, it was long and good for it.
It was very epic folk. Both of them very epic in scope, but also very, because they're just so focused on these very small interpersonal. Very good.
Yeah, well said. I liked it. I thought it was a great film. Very slow, but it had a ring of truth to it that was interesting. It could have been a real story, and it was very well performed. And I really felt I got an insight into these characters, and the taste of the history of China it gave us was very interesting and quite touching. Yeah. So, yeah, great film. Really well done. How about you, Claire?
I think I mostly agree. I think it was excellent. It was very tough. It wasn't an easy film. And I think it will take me a couple of days to sort of emotionally recover from watching it. But
you mean the last 20 minutes weren't enough?
maybe like 20 days or so will be enough. But yeah, the intimacy of it and the way they just committed to it. Again, it's if you commit to something, you're on your way to making a great film. Yeah, it was so touching. You felt like you knew the characters. Yeah, very beautiful. But yeah, very harrowing. That was the word that kept coming back.
Harrowing, yeah. Oh my God, it was harrowing.
They earned that, though, didn't they? They didn't have to smack us in the face with how harrowing it was. They just showed some awful stuff that happened, and yeah, left us to think what we thought of that.
I loved the non-linear storytelling.
Yeah.
Threw me a bit at first. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. We find it a bit difficult to follow sometimes?
Only in the beginning, I think. Once I'd gotten used to it. I mean, on occasion was like, I can't really tell if this is in the past or not, but I got there in the end, so.
Yeah, okay.
How about you guys?
I had trouble, for sure. I was jotting down notes and things, and I've just about got it by the end. But it was, it wasn't an easy one to follow. How'd you find it, Fernando?
Yeah, it was certainly a little bit challenging. Perhaps the aspect that got me a little bit more confused and that I still don't completely understand is it seems to have been implied in the film that the husband was having an affair. Well, it was not implied, it was actually true. The husband was having an affair with a woman, and apparently that woman had been with the family for a long time, except I can't remember who she was.
This was Molly, right?
Yeah, and who is she?
Was that Molly? I thought her name was May.
Oh, God damn.
I think it was Molly.
Oh, was it Molly?
No, I think it was Molly.
It was the friend's brother.
Yeah, that's right.
The friend's sister.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
There was also May Yu. I can't remember who that was.
May Yu was the cool guy's partner.
Oh, yeah.
Was it? Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, May Yu was... she had a sort of funny look to her, didn't she? I'm trying to put my finger on what that was, but she looked like had a different style from the rest of them. Like she was a bit of an old woman beyond her years. Anyway, yeah. So Molly was the young girl who joined the factory. She was Yao Jun's apprentice.
Right. I'm with you now. I just thought I got mixed up because I thought her name was me. But yeah, okay. No, I know who she is. Cool.
Yeah, so she had fallen in love with Yao Jun, and they ended up having some kind of affair. It wasn't quite clear to me whether they were having an affair all the way back then, or whether it was just later on a one-off.
Yeah, I think it was just a one-off. They said that in the card, did they not?
They said, so you got pregnant from just a one-off.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that meant, obviously it wasn't from 10 years ago, when we were cheating on our... when we were having an affair the whole time. Or maybe it was that they had never actually got together and done anything until that one night all of those years later.
So that was a little bit confusing, and I just decided to not understand that part of the plot, but be fine with it.
Okay. What I was having trouble with was I was expecting this the teenager Liu Xing, who they were calling Xing Xing, but who was not the real Xing Xing that they had lost as a child. I thought we were going to have it revealed who he really was, because we got this idea that he was actually not their real son. And I think the conclusion is they just adopted him. There's no mystery.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to turn out that was Molly's son, because I wasn't sure if like that was 10 years ago or was that 15 years ago or when were all of these different things happening. That I totally had my timescales off. Molly sort of became pregnant when Xing Xing was like 16. So I'd really got mixed up there.
It was after he'd left home, was it not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I had thought that I wasn't sure if that was a flashback, and it was good because she was even offering him the chance to raise her son, to raise their son. And I thought, like, oh, this is the story of how he's now got another son, also called Xing Xing. So that was, it didn't help that there were two different kids with the same name.
Yeah. I feel like that was a
really
poor
good
life decision as well, to try and replace their son.
Yeah.
That was, I don't approve of that.
Not cool, guys.
I was wondering watching that, because nobody was terribly taken aback by that. I feel like that would be almost quite a taboo thing to do here. I wonder if there's something slightly different about that in China.
Oh, they'd run away, though. No one there knew that they had a son they'd lost called Xing Xing.
Oh, true. Yeah, good point.
I thought that was cruel. And maybe that perhaps could have explained his behavior.
I think so.
They obviously loved him, though, and really, did their best to look after him and care for him. But yeah, it's always got to be difficult. I think it can be difficult in any case, a kid that's adopted, especially when they're old enough to sort of remember their life before they were adopted. But yeah, it can't be good having his name changed and everything.
We don't really know what age he was when he was adopted, do we?
No, but we know that he's about the same age as Hao Hao, and therefore about the same age as Xing Xing would have been.
Yeah, that's fine.
And he was not a baby when he died.
Yeah,
No.
So I think we've got to think they adopted him when he was 11 or 12 or something.
Which is also rare, because apparently most children get adopted before the age of 8.
Right. But it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? I guess they were looking for someone like Xing Xing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a troubling sort of thing, but it was nice that they had that reunion with him at the end there.
Yeah, that was a really nice way to end.
Yeah, and he introduced himself on the phone as Xing Xing.
Yes.
Because that was his name when he was with them, and that's kind of nice. It made me wonder whether he was using that name in his new life.
Yeah.
Or whether he was using, I think his ID card called him Yongfu, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a little surprised to know that, well, it seemed to me that he was surprised to know that he had a different name. So maybe he was already used to being Xing Xing, and he would continue to use that name.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Anyway, that was cool.
Did any bits get you?
Yeah.
Pretty much all of it.
It was touching, wasn't it?
Did you cry though? That's why.
I only actually cried at the end during that phone call we were just talking about. I thought it was very sweet.
It was. I didn't quite cry because it wasn't about animals or children's toys growing up. In short, it wasn't a Pixar film or Anne of Green Gables, so I didn't cry. But that doesn't mean it wasn't touching.
Yeah.
How about you, Laura? Are you in a delicate state? Did you?
It was a bit of a fragile state of
crying
mind.
before you started.
Yeah, just carried on. No, the bit that got me the most was when they were in the hospital and terrible with names. When she was dying, their friend was dying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the friend Yingming.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Haiyan.
Haiyan, that's the one.
Yeah. And she
so
offered
sad.
to pay the
They should
fine
have
for them to
another
have a new
baby.
baby. Yeah.
They're old.
Yeah.
She was out of it, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And she'd also spent 20 years obsessing about that. She was the one that made her get an abortion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she must have just spent 20 years with this terrible guilt about that. And so, the slightest confusion, that must have been all she could think about. That was sweet.
So, heavy stuff. Just perfectly kept. What would it be like to carry something like that for 20 years?
Yeah.
And have it, just colour everything in your life?
Yeah, exactly.
God, why do we love anyone? That's what this film made me think.
Whoa.
We should all be islands. Life is full of tragedy.
And perhaps everything that happens in our life colours our life. So
that one event, it's just so. I mean, life is ever flowing, but one thing just jarring that wasn't supposed to happen, or feels that way. Obviously, it's all part of life's ebbs and flows.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Tough stuff for a Saturday morning. That's what I.
Sure is.
Yeah. Who were your favourites?
Now that's a tough one. My favourite straight away was Molly, just because she was very sweet and very loving and very bubbly. But I can't easily forgive her for for deliberately getting involved with Yao Jun, knowing he was married to one of her friends. So that was tough. Do you have a favourite? I really liked Yao Jun.
I really liked Yao Jun as well. I thought he was great. And Lian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were a great watchable central couple, weren't they?
Yeah, they certainly were.
And they were so kind to each other. There was a real feeling that they'd been together for a long time and that they understood each other. Mm-hmm. It was great. Any favourites, Claire?
I just think the central couple were just so endearing, so good to each other. In impossible circumstances. The care they showed each other, I just thought was lovely. I kind of didn't like the super cool guy, whoever he was.
Oh, with the flares and he looked like a Hong Kong movie star. I really liked him.
Well, that's why he got arrested. Nobody liked him.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
I did feel like
why didn't you?
He was just a bit annoying. I feel like he was maybe there to try and lighten things a little bit, but he was just kind of annoying.
He was there to be thrown in prison and reformed, right?
Yeah. I feel like he got a bit hard done by, because while he was in prison for having, listened to the devil's music, things seemed to ease off. They were at that party together, while he was in prison, I think. And the boys were still little.
Yeah.
So something changed, but they didn't commute his sentence or anything. I thought that was a bit harsh.
Yeah, it was very harsh on him, but maybe that was the point of it, right? He was. This was what happened in the Cultural Revolution. People were treated terribly for the smallest things.
Was it only because of the music that he was listening to, or was it also because he was acting a little bit camp?
Oh,
I think they'd say that was all part of the same thing, right? It was a failure to conform to the appropriate lifestyle, for a Chinese person at that time. Yeah, that sort of individuality, and he'd been organising lights out parties, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And so my guess is that was all part of it. I think from the little I know about this, a lot of it wasn't quite, there is a law, you have broken it, and this is the sentence for that law. There was a bit of, if people don't like the way you're doing things, they label you as being, I don't know what the word was, a degenerate or some similar label. And that was what you'd done wrong, and that was what needed correction rather than any particular crime. So I wonder if, part of this, this whole crazy hairstyle and individualist attitude to life, I think they were correcting that as much as anything in particular he'd done.
That's not very nice.
Nah.
I don't agree with all the actions of the Chinese government.
Yeah. I was wondering through this what the present Chinese government thought of this film. I
wondered that as well.
Because it was filmed in China. It was obviously permitted by the Chinese government. But it did have a... there
was an edge to it.
Something to said, yeah. And I think a lot of the time they try to sort of forget about the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, and that in many ways Chinese society has moved on from it, but in other ways they really haven't. You cannot talk about the Tiananmen Square massacre that happened at that time because the government is still, suppressing discussion of that. So I was surprised that they could, go as far as to show the horrors of the one-child policy and to show how, Chairman Mao's cult of personality affected people in negative ways. I don't quite know what's going on there. I'd love to sort of talk to people more about what it's like in China now, discussing these things that happened a little while ago.
Yeah, there was something about when they waved at the statue.
Yeah.
You could watch that through two different lenses, I suppose, which is, it's an innocuous just nod to, oh, look at that statue. That's look at how an emblem of things having changed. But then on the other side, a sort of slightly biting. I don't know. It's just something in it.
So the way I read that was Yao Jun waved to it, didn't he? And I thought it was him saying, oh, do you remember this thing that used to be so important to us so many years ago that we've now just about forgotten about? Chairman Mao was another thing like these old apartment blocks that were all being knocked down, something that's sort of just about barely still there, but only as a hazy memory that people still have, a real relic of the past. And I think the fact that statue was now in front of a massive shopping mall said a lot about the way what's happened to China between 1980 and 2020.
I suppose that could have been one of the few things he recognised from his time in the city.
Yeah.
One of the few things left.
Wow.
Yeah, you also feel like it could have been a sarcastic, almost a middle finger to the regime that caused him so much pain. Like a little sarcastic wave.
Then I wondered if that was just me being like, well, that's from my perspective. Maybe that's not.
It was never clear, was it, what the central characters thought of the Communist Party of China. And again, it made me start thinking, if they were making this film in Hong Kong or somewhere else where they maybe had a bit more license to talk about things, would they have taken the gloves off a bit more? Were they trying to get past present day Chinese censorship? And that made me a little suspicious of the way the film was doing things. But I wonder if it was trying to tell us that for most people, the communist regime of China is just a part of life. It's not something that you support or that you hate. It's just a thing that's there, and you don't like this policy, but otherwise this is how things go.
Mm.
And I think we saw some of the positive sides of it as well. Yeah.
Did we?
I think so. Certainly compared to like how life would have been before the Communist Revolution. Hao is a doctor and his parents were factory workers. How has that happened? There's all of these stories all the way through of people moving south and getting rich in the city. And we see a lot of people living much, much more comfortable lifestyles. And in fact, Yao Jun and Li Yun are basically the only two characters who are still living in near poverty at the end. They all grew up like that. But as things have gone on, that people have had a chance to do things differently. And a lot of people, seemed economically comfortable. And I don't know. We saw like the disco they were at. We had seen them like dancing to Boney M in the Room, which was to be frowned upon. But we actually also saw them at this disco, all having a great time together, all members of this same factory, all hanging out. There was a real camaraderie, a real friendship between everyone.
I thought when they were in that little apartment building with their friends, all in the next little room, that seems lovely. I'd love that.
And there is genuinely something nice about that, right? This feeling of cohesion and togetherness. But it means that there's sacrifices to be made for that. Like if someone doesn't conform and wears crazy trousers, you send them to a re-education camp and shave their head. And it's
Sure. I'm not trying to put too much of a gloss on it, but
it seemed to show both sides of it though, and I thought that was interesting. And I wonder if maybe that's how people feel looking back at it.
The life of the main couple seemed like the perfect example of, I guess, an anti-karma life, because it seemed that they were so nice and so much tragedy happened to them.
Yeah.
And still they were the unfortunate ones in the film.
That's right.
Didn't seem fair, I guess.
I was going to say, I suppose you could argue the fact that they tried to hide the second pregnancy and kept it going so long was the reason that they couldn't have another child later, because the late stage termination damaged her uterus, didn't it?
Yeah.
And that prevented them from having another child. So maybe there's some karma there in some sense.
Okay.
Not in a nice way, but
I see. Yes, that is true.
Devil's advocate might say that.
Oh, and in that case, I'm glad that they got what they deserve.
Oh dear.
We had a little discussion of karma in the film, didn't we? A couple of them said that they talked about what would happen in the next life, and it seemed that they were very particularly drawing our eye towards Li Yun going to the temple and praying that one time. And it seemed that was important. I wasn't quite sure what they were getting at, though. Why were they showing us that? I guess it's a part of her life, but were we supposed to think this was her way of dealing with the things that had gone wrong?
Yeah, I thought that was her just looking for solace anywhere she could.
Yeah. Possibly another thing that I think that was that suppressed Buddhism and other religions suppressed in early communist China, and they've loosened off now.
Was Buddhism suppressed? Isn't that like the main religion? Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was by far the I believe, the most dominant religion in China, unless you count Taoism. But it was, communist governments, communist doctrine was always that religion is a bad thing and it should be avoided and suppressed.
Wow.
Is that what Marx said?
I think Marx described religion as the opium of the masses.
He wasn't for suppression, though, right?
No.
And that's worked into the communist sort of documents, is it? Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. Certainly Lenin was in favour of suppressing religion, and it was... And yeah, I think certain religions at least were suppressed in China for a long time. It was a state atheism was what was prescribed.
That's extremely... Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because I've also been reading about the history of Mexico, and apparently around 1930, the government really tried to suppress religion. As in there were some states that even banned religious services, and by that I mean Catholic services.
Yeah,
and people were disgruntled.
Yeah, okay.
Very disgruntled.
How is it today? Are people still mostly Christian, or in Mexico?
People are definitely mostly Christian, specifically Catholic. But I don't think that. I think you definitely can practice your religion freely. You can say that you're Catholic and nobody will say anything. I think it's
I see. Was that a particular regime then that was trying to cut down on
the
religion?
regime that was born out of the Mexican Revolution?
Right.
Wow. There are so many similarities. Maybe I should continue reading the book.
Yeah, okay. Wow. So we saw that, didn't we? It did take us through a lot of... It seemed to have a lot to say about Chinese society and what it's like to live through it, right? There wasn't a lot of discussion of the big top-level decisions that were being made and that kind of thing, but it was just what it was like to live through. And that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, a little spider's just dropped down from the ceiling.
Oh dear. And frightened Miss Muffet away.
He's frightening me. Go away. Oh, horrible. He's on my laptop now.
Oh dear.
He's scrolling down the screen. This is awful.
Oh no.
Burn it.
Now he's in your hair.
Well, he nearly was. He just appeared. I just saw something in the corner of my eye, and then I looked to my right, and there's a little spider next to my head.
Wow.
Floating down from the ceiling. I've got him off now.
Fuck that.
He's away.
I feel like there's a non-negligible risk that Laura might smash her wrist trying to not kill the spider.
Don't worry, we've charged the car. We can come and pick you up and take you to hospital.
Yeah, it's about that time of year, I think. Sorry, you were saying something sensible.
Oh, nothing much. What do we think of the ending?
The ending. I really liked the end. I thought it was nice. It was it was as well resolved as it could have been.
Yeah.
Oh.
Why?
What do you think?
Why is the wife still with him? Is that just because? Why is still she pretending not to see what she clearly sees? Is that because she's lived with him for so long? Because she seems to be in pain knowing that her husband at some point had something with another woman.
Perhaps she's forgiven him.
It didn't seem that she had forgiven him. It seemed like she was still in pain when she got that... on
the call.
That call, that virtual call from the laptop.
I think that's what the film was about. Oh no, go on.
I was just going to say maybe it just hurt to be reminded of it, but that doesn't mean she's, sometimes you don't want to be faced with the horrible truth of your past. You can live life ignoring it mostly. And I think they just truly loved each other. I think she was willing to forgive that in him. Sorry, Laura, what were you?
No, it's okay. Something I thought that the whole film was about unending grief and just living, like you were about what you were just saying, about living with grief and sorrow and not trying to resolve it. It was not about healing or, so many times through the film as well, they were like, just don't talk about it. We just, this is just something we carry and live with. Yeah. It reminded me of Freud's framework of melancholia.
Oh.
The refusal to let go of the lost love object.
Brilliant.
So your action is
all about that.
This is an action that actively sustains the wound. So you're not trying to close it or heal it. It's just a perpetual ongoingness of grief and melancholy. It's a way of living. Melancholy is a way of life. And
you think that was what Lee Yoon was living with? Yes,
that's what I
How was she
felt
holding the wound open?
By naming her song Xingxi?
Yeah.
Okay.
That, I think the fact that they said, like, we're just waiting until we die. They suspended time for themselves. They removed themselves from their friends and family, and they just lived this drawn-out existence of, just going to work and surviving and not attempting to make anything better or repair anything or get back with their old friends until the end, which it did give us a bit more of that's where it sort of falls apart, because that's where I think
they didn't initiate that.
They didn't initiate that, yeah.
So was that their final first attempt to heal after everything?
Yeah, well, it was like something that was happening to them. They didn't even by the end, I thought they weren't actively, they were still going to move away again. But then we get this happy moment with their son, adopted son, coming back. So,
yeah.
Wow, when you just said, Laura, it reminded me that I think it was Crash Course on YouTube that I watched, that apparently in Japan, the nobility was expected to be sad. Like, being sad was kind of a trait of you being sophisticated.
Oh, wow.
Brilliant.
I feel like happiness is quite uncouth, really.
Yes, exactly. It's much more romantic to be sad all the time.
It is.
Yeah. I was reading something really recently about TB and how it was really cool to have TB and be dying. Everyone wanted to have TB and be dying because it was romantic.
That's quite romantic, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were thin and pale and they could just wallow and be miserable. I don't think that's what was happening here. They wanted to. They were trying to be cool with their grief.
Yeah.
It's so 15-year-old sort of walking around being like, oh, my life is so hard.
You're saying they were emos.
Yeah, they're emos. Fucking emos.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were in the film. I'm saying Lord Byron was an emo.
Yes, Lord Byron was definitely an emo. That's good. And I'm going to say Yao Jun and Lee Yoon were actually surprisingly non-melodramatic.
It was definitely low key.
Yeah. And they weren't making a fuss about things, and they had a certain getting on with it aspect to them, which sort of goes against the theory of melancholia, but also I do see that.
Does it?
Melancholia doesn't have to be a very overt, in your face way of life.
It's just a melancholic.
They're just sad. They're down.
And they were melancholic, I thought.
Yeah. Okay. But
see what you mean? They weren't melodramatic, which is...
Yeah, you were talking, though, about almost a deliberate decision not to heal and not to get better. I wouldn't
frame it as such I suppose that is what I said, but I don't think it's such an overt decision. It's just a refusal. It could be a refusal to move on. I don't know.
And I think there's something in that, but at the same time, we saw near the end there, didn't we, all those years ago, when they actually knew what Hao Hao had done.
Yeah.
And they had said, it's too late now. Forget about it. We don't need to drag this up. Let Hao Hao carry on with his life. Things have gone how they've gone.
I don't think they necessarily wanted to drag other people into their melancholia, though.
Okay.
They just saw it as their sort of cross to bear.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, their cross to bear just between them. And that was interesting.
I like that they didn't hold on to anger. I thought that was very believable. They were just good people, weren't they? They just understood that he was a child. I mean, poor How, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his fault, let's be honest. I'm just kidding.
And I think that ties in with the idea that their sort of lifelong grief was not melodramatic. It wasn't about seeking attention. It was just they had their burden and they weren't looking for sympathy. You know, they could have used that sort of announcement from How to be the centre of attention again and be like, oh, it's all getting dragged back up and I can't believe he did this and I'm so angry about this and you know, if they had an Instagram they might post teary videos about it. But they didn't. They did it in the most low-key way possible, cause the least harm possible. Yeah, and that's why they were likable. I think, dealt with it with sort of dignity.
Yeah,
they were very dignified.
I thought so.
Some people would say suppressed.
Yep.
Or repressed is what I mean to say.
Yep. That's where I heard repressed, even though he's maybe. And some people do argue that you know it is a way of protecting yourself, isn't it, from grief, is to sort of shut down in a way, and that leads to this sort of disengagement.
You can also look at it culturally though, which is that. Again, sorry, I keep talking about the West. Here I go again.
The West.
But Western psychoanalytic tradition, which is very much like we need to be open about everything and, you know, process and things, but that's just not shared everywhere. So like when they had Western sort of psychiatrists go into Rwanda, for instance, and be like, we all need to reconcile and heal and dredge things up. Yes, I'm sure I did mention that before. Yeah. But that, I mean, can cause a lot more harm than good. So, you know, it's a very cultural judgment, I think, to say you're being repressed and keeping everything in, but maybe it's just...
It's very individualistic, isn't it?
It is very individualistic.
Yeah, maybe we should go back to stiff upper lip, get on with it.
I think that's not quite the direction I would...
I think that's what you said.
You're right, I liked it when no one talked about their feelings ever.
Well, why did you feel like you had to tell us that?
Oh, God. But I don't know. There is something in what you're saying. I think even the film was showing us that they were being repressed because other characters would try and talk to them about it and they would consistently say, just let it go, stop talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's just not hugely cultural. I don't know enough about anything, so... No,
we're all being armchair psychologists here, aren't we? I'm actually sitting on a couch, so... I feel like I should lie back and...
Maybe they were trying to say don't talk about it because they were talking about it in an extreme way. For example, when Hao's father suggested that he chopped him up, maybe that was extreme. However, they did take a different attitude with Hao himself when he confessed to them what he had done. They were like, you can express your feelings, let it out.
Let it out, son.
Very good point.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, you're right.
I think I think anyone would have to say that, no matter how sort of shut off you are with your own feelings, to see how the way he was there. That was obviously what he needed was to get that all out and say. But yeah, it was interesting to see that in fact they were not surprised by that at all, though they didn't tell how that.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they could it would have been not justified for them to say we don't need to hear any of this. Like, we forgive you, because what he wanted was forgiveness. I mean, I think you were right. Like, he needed to let it out, and it was very kind of them, I think, to let him.
Yeah.
Describe.
Yeah, it was kind of them.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's partly because they loved Hao as well. He was their godson, and they were he was like a brother to Xing Xing, and they'd kind of lost two sons at that point, and Hao was that sort of their third one that they had. I suppose they really cared about him, wanted what was best for him. Yeah.
There were no animals in this film.
Oh yeah, maybe there should have been. Where would you have added one? There are a lot of flies.
Where would I have added in? I don't know. When the sun ran away, then you try a dog, don't you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that.
Were there some seagulls?
Animals.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
I don't remember seeing them, but maybe there were. It seems perhaps logical that there were some seagulls.
We heard a load of dogs when the fireworks were going off.
Oh yeah.
But we only heard them.
Very odd to have a film with no animals.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen a film with no animals?
Oh, wow.
Well, I would like to say that humans are animals.
Oh, well done. You got me.
Perhaps even the best animals. Yeah, okay.
I don't think I've got anything for symbolism.
No.
But should we
yes,
give it a bash anyway?
Yeah, I would like to know who is Moby Dick, so let me just...
Beautiful.
So who was Moby Dick?
There wasn't really an obsession in the film, was there? And that makes me think that we don't it doesn't quite apply itself to Moby Dick. Everyone was...
This can't be the
almost
first film.
The point of the film was that everything wasn't black and white. Everything wasn't a complete perfect goal that you can work towards. There were just lots of little things, and you have to get on with your life and work out how you're going to deal with this and that.
I feel like if we knew more about Moby Dick, we could get more out of the Moby Dick.
Yeah, it'd be good.
We should be talking about it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, we could say other than just, was anyone obsessed with anything in the film? That's Moby Dick.
I listened to a 2-hour radio adaptation of Moby Dick once.
That's something.
And I think I got something out of it.
I'm glad to hear it.
It's a shame it's not coming to your symbolism, Michael.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I do have something, I don't know if this is quite symbolism, but certainly a recurring motif, if you will. Rushing into the hospital. We saw 3 times in the film, didn't we? Panicked people rushing someone into the hospital, running up those stairs with the thing that said silence. The first time we saw it was Xing Xing dying. The second time was Li Yun having the abortion. And the third time was a scene I don't think we've talked about. Li Yun surviving a suicide attempt.
Yeah. That's what that was. Yeah, I got mixed up when I was misremembered it as. That's what I thought had happened, and then later when Haiyan was in the hospital, I was like, maybe that was, I'm misremembering. Maybe that was her having the tumour thing. But now I remember him reading the suicide note. Yeah, he read the suicide note and ran to her.
They did make that deliberately confusing, I think, because they showed him arriving at the hospital and not getting in to the treatment room, and then cut to the discussion about the brain.
Yes, I was confused.
Yeah, with a doctor in a similar looking hospital. Yeah. I really struggled with that for a bit. That wasn't helping at all. I would love to see a cut of this in chronological order.
Oh man, I think that would totally ruin it. But yes, I would be interested as well, just to see how it...
Well, my suggestion is I think it would probably work quite well, even as a first viewing. I thought a lot of the flashback and the way they jumped through time didn't really seem to have much purpose to it. I thought it was interesting and it was nice kind of picking them up at different times, but it wasn't like, oh, there's some big thing that's revealed earlier that we can then therefore jump back to it. It just seemed like it was a bit of we were kind of unraveling it almost at random. So I wonder how it would play just straight through. I
think it would still seem very disjointed because it still wasn't. I mean, I don't think you could. Yeah, they were jumping about. I don't think it would work. I would like to see it, but I love the way they jump back and forth. I think that was what kept me interested. I think if it was just one chronological thing where we have to just go through the process of their lives and then the sun dying, and then I'd be. Yeah. I'd wonder what was the point, because the whole thing that drove it. Would you have the sun scene of the sun dying at the beginning, and then we go back and then progress chronologically? Because that was the thing that drove everything and everyone, and coloured all the flashbacks.
Yeah, I don't know. No, maybe I would have that, because it would still be fairly near the beginning, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'd like to know what it would play like, just completely no exceptions, straight through in order. Just a thought. How about, and this would have helped me, but I don't think I want this, but could they have just, each time they changed scene, just put the year on the screen? Because I did actually get confused a lot of the time. I don't think I was supposed to get confused. If it just said 1986 and then played the scene, I think I'd have handled it better.
I liked that I was constantly like, where are we?
That's it. Yeah, and it would have been so uncool to just put the year. But, yeah, you do see films where it'll say, like, 16 years earlier.
Exactly, and those films are cowards.
Yeah, I think that would have got quite tiresome. Just every new scene having a big, you're now 14 years in the past.
Yeah.
I'm picturing it like the Spencer Confidential flash-ups being like 1986 lobster.
Oh God, yeah. No, fuck that. How about more hints?
Yeah,
like
program.
Oh, he's reading a newspaper that says man sets foot on the moon at the start of the scene.
No.
Even worse.
Yeah.
Maybe a program like the ones that you get when you get to go to a concert, and they give you like all the movements of the song. Likewise, they would give you a program that tells you this scene is this year, and you can read the program if you want, or you can just watch the film.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good one. I went to see a Chinese opera a couple of times, and they had these screens next to the stage that had, firstly, they had the translation, which was very important, but each scene would say, scene 3, by the lake, and then it would, show what they're saying. Maybe we should have had that little extra screen numbering the scene.
No.
Okay, how about they do it all? How about they do the whole thing with expository dialogue, where they go, how are you? I'm doing pretty well in this sweltering summer of 1983. It hasn't been this hot since 1981.
Finally, a good idea from you, Michael.
and it's particularly tough. After all, I am the manager of this entire factory. Yeah. Just throwing me a little lifeline.
I'm leaning towards Fernando's program idea. Which
okay.
I think name tags would have helped as well.
Yeah, everyone should have a name tag.
I'd have gone for that.
Maybe the name tags could just have had their age on it, and then that way we would have known what year it was.
Yeah, because I think we were sometimes meant to work this out from like how grey his beard was, and that was tough, especially when some of the actors, they had like different actors for their different ages, which was tricky. I was pleased that I managed to. I've only just looked here, and Molly apparently was played by 2 different actresses.
Yes, I thought that because I was a little confused,
which I didn't get, and I thought I was just good at identifying her, so they must have just both been good at playing the same character. So good on them. Well done, Shi-Chi and Xuang-Wu. But yeah, I struggled sometimes with the kids and figuring out who they are now. And I don't know, I wonder if I was even perhaps meant to struggle with that. But no, it was a little tricky. Big cast, and I didn't always keep a handle on who everyone was.
I thought they mostly made it clear from context.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, that's a lot of work though, isn't it?
I like having work to do during a film. Keeps me on my toes, keeps me engaged. I'm like,
yeah.
Every scene,
I guess what I wanted, like if you're in a class and you have to take notes, that kind of sucks. But then sometimes the teacher will like give you a worksheet that has all of the questions in it, and you just answer them. I'd have liked something like that, like a little reading comprehension bit for each scene. Being like, scene 4, can you work it? Who do you think this character is? And then you can look up the answers at the end. No? It's not working for you?
I think it's quite important that you never make a film.
I agree. I'm reminded of your old Yorkshire boomer man who just wants his plate of meat and 2 veg.
Yeah.
All these modern films with their
Why
time
couldn't we
jumps.
just watch a musical?
Brigadoon, that was a film.
Oh, when films were films. Great Escape.
Michael Caine.
Okay, so I might actually have some symbolism.
Okay.
The lock, the padlock. I thought this was maybe really lame, so I wasn't even going to mention it. But when they're living by the sea and she's surreptitiously leaving the door open for Xing Xing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that them still leaving themselves open to pain because they know he's going to leave, and they're just prolonging that, and she's leaving herself unlocked.
Yeah, leaving her heart open.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, Claire, that's a bit corny.
Yeah, sorry guys.
That's good.
No, that was very good. I like that.
I drew a big thumbs down next to that in my notepad, but.
No. I definitely think you should.
Since we only had someone might be Moby Dick, but I should mention
it. Maybe the Chinese government was Moby Dick.
Well, they were certainly
the
obsessive.
Chinese government was Captain Ahab.
Yeah. Oh no, the big white statue that he waves at. He's Captain Ahab, just waving at Moby Dick like, hey.
You're right. One of us does need to read Moby Dick at some point.
That's what happens. He just sails past a totally still, silent whale. Anyway, I thought another motif, not a symbol again, was consoles being thrown.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was fun. But what did it mean?
Oh, did we have that a few times?
Yao Jun, wasn't it?
Oh, it was always Yao Jun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he threw aside the controller.
Oh, yeah. And he grabbed the Game Boy and threw that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Well, maybe it was only twice, actually.
I only remember
it's not really
it
a
twice.
motif.
Still, that's 2 or something.
2 is a collection.
Yeah.
Maybe we were saying something about modernity. Or our lives are games.
Yeah. Nice.
Jeez.
Actually, that was probably another little hint to us of what year it was, right? Oh, they're playing on a Famicom. It must be whenever. And I think we were meant to recognise what he was playing on when he was on the bed, but I didn't.
They used his Yao Jun's mobile phone as a signaller for modern day, didn't they?
I thought that, and then I got confused again because I was like, he could just have an old phone. He could just be too poor to have a good phone.
Yeah, and unfortunately it was a very old phone,
yeah.
even in the very last scene. Like, who has a monophonic ringtone like that now? And yeah, I wonder if that was meant to hint at his poverty,
good.
as you say, which also really sucks as a way to try and date it in the right period, doesn't it?
They weren't helping us out. Yeah.
So one person we've not really talked about, I'd like to talk about, is someone whose name I've forgotten, Yang Ming's wife, Hai Yan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because she had a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
I can't say I was a big fan.
I liked her. I
very
really liked
flawed,
her.
wasn't she?
I think I liked how flawed she was.
I think the time I was most cross with her was, in fact, not when she was pressuring Lee Yun into getting an abortion. It was when she was shouting at Hao Hao.
Me too.
Whose friend had just died. I mean, yeah, she could be grief-stricken or whatever. She must have been shocked. But it was just such a cruel way to treat her son, who was obviously in such a dreadful situation.
Yeah, that child needed love.
Yeah.
Which, in the end, Yao Jun and Lee Yun showed him at the end.
Yeah. And
With
his
own
father as well was looking after him at that point. And I think told Hai Yan, pull yourself together, stop being so noisy. He's going to hear you. But then, turned up at Yao Jun's with the cleaver saying, go round there and kill my son.
I think that was just symbolic, obviously. He was demonstrating to,
Yao Jun,
that he was very sorry.
I
don't think he meant
he was
it.
a wreck, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It seemed like he wasn't quite at the point where he would actually have done something like that himself. But it seemed to me that it was that he meant it when he was saying it to Yao Jun.
Oh, I thought it was just
Yao Jun
a
had to
performance.
wrestle the cleaver off him, didn't he? And really put him in his place.
I don't know.
What I didn't get about that is that he had known for 20 years that his son did that.
But that was in the past, though.
Yeah, I think that was a flashback to right after it had happened.
Because I thought it was right after the son had come to the parents.
Oh.
But then I looked at his hair and he didn't have the grey in his hair. So I was like, so that happened at the time.
Right.
You see, they could have just said, you know that thing that happened down by the reservoir yesterday.
And that's why he called him a little bastard. I thought that was strange. They described his grown-up son as a little bastard.
Yeah. And then Yao Jun said, you must never tell Hao Hao about this, which would be a funny thing to say if he'd just had it confessed to him. It was... I wonder how many scenes like that I'm still confused about. Just think I know when it happened. Someone's going to tell me the factory is actually like what happens in the future or something. I've got it all wrong.
There was no factory. There was never a factory.
Whoa.
I thought that helped. The film was about fragments and glimpses and just giving us a broad brush.
Yeah.
Gave
us that feel, didn't it?
We can make what we like of it.
I really loved this film. I thought it was great.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, I also really liked it. And in fact, maybe I like it as usually happens a little bit more now that we've talked about it.
Excellent.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Having talked about it, I'm even more fond than I was.
Oh,
yeah.
That's nice.
Any last things anyone wants to say?
What a lovely discussion.
I would like to know if those buns are plant-based, because I really have to go to China.
They look delicious.
Yes.
Looked all right, didn't they? A lot of nice-looking food in this film.
Yeah, even the apples at the end looked amazing. Looked like pink ladies.
Yeah, I love a good pink lady.
They're really good.
Yeah.
It was like we watched Turning Red recently, and the food in that looks really good as well.
Yeah, a lot of good-looking food.
Oh, we have to go to China.
Oh, I'm starving. No, we have to go to Epcot.
Oh, yes, that's true. We can go to the Chinese part in Epcot.
Exactly.
And that's equivalent to going to China. Oh, I've been to China then.
Yeah, welcome to China.
I just once went for like a meal in a Chinese restaurant that I was taken to by a Chinese friend of a friend who was able to be like, none of the stuff you normally give the Europeans. And we had like the full meal where everyone's sharing everything with the table that turns around and everything. It was quite something. Some really, really great food and a lovely feel. Us all sitting around the table together and sharing.
I hate sharing my food.
Really?
I used to absolutely hate it. I couldn't bear to share. And now I quite like it because I like tasting everything. So
cool.
So now,
that's what I like. I like having a bit of lots of different things. And there's something nice about, could you pass me the whatever?
That's why communism works.
I mean, genuinely, right? That is, that's part of the whole thing that they're going for.
It's just a shame.
Take the good and leave the bad. You can do that with people who are wearing crazy jeans or whatever. I've got nothing else to say.
No, nor have I.
Thanks for picking a great film, Fernando.
Thank you for the lovely discussion.
Wonderful. It was quite long.
Lovely.
Longer than I thought it would be. I thought I didn't have that much to say about this film. But time flies when you're with pals, eh?
Lovely.
Right. Play the music?
Yeah.
Play the music.
Oh, I wish I'd played the Cantina music from Star Wars, damn it!
I'm glad
so
you
funny.
did.